an agent like most or all coaches. Ryan, Danny, and Justin are the ones that communicate with them. Justin being the primary communicator. Um, you know, these are conversations that happen over a period of time. It's not a one day thing. And um, yeah, so they speak about, the kind of the aim of the program and what their thoughts are. I'm fortunate that I work for this group. I think Ryan, Ashley, Danny, Justin have been incredibly good to me from the first day. We've been very aligned um, the entire way through this process. And so calling it a negotiation, that word sometimes draws up this thought in your mind like it's a contentious thing back and forth, and it's not. Um, I'm very proud to be the coach of the Utah Jazz. So this is something that everybody was really excited about.
Ryan Miller.
Hey, Will. 6 years is a long time. It'll be what, like 9 years when this thing's all done. How much does that help you just as you're like looking forward to long-term fans, future to be like, okay, I will be here. This is my job for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately a big sigh of relief for any coach. We all see every day that this business is not, it's not one where you see a ton of coaches getting long-term commitments. I think ultimately the goal is to continue to build this program and ultimately hang a banner at Delta Center. And to get a commitment of that length shows the belief that our group has in our coaching staff. And so it makes you feel the confidence from them. That's not something that I've ever doubted. I think the communication that we've had the entire first 3 years, I've felt that I have the confidence of our group, but to get that, quote unquote, put on paper is definitely meaningful. Um, I'm all in on the Utah Jazz. I'm incredibly humbled and grateful to have this opportunity. There are very few moments where I'm really at a loss for words, and this is one of those where the the perspective on all of it, the understanding of the commitment that they're making to me and to our staff is really humbling. And we're excited to continue to work. I love representing this organization. I love representing our community and our fan base. Um, so it's a really exciting day.
Jeff Rainier.
Yeah, Coach, you have a real close connection with the guys you mentioned, Ryan, Danny, Justin, and yourself. You guys hang out together, play golf together. How important is that to you to have that connection with those guys? I don't know if that exists in a lot of other NBA coaching positions.
Yeah, I think it's what sets us apart is the alignment that we have every day. It's one constant conversation. I think I've said publicly, I'm not sure in 3 years we've ever scheduled a meeting because we don't need to. The conversation is ongoing. We all spend so much time together and are intentional about making sure we all spend time together that the perspective is always there for all four of us. Um, I understand the things that they're thinking about, the things that they're worried about, the things that they may be focused on in the current moment, and they understand the things that I'm worried about and focused on. So I think that connection allows us to navigate what is a hard landscape in professional sports. Um, it's very much a business that is judged and reacted to in sort of an A or F manner. It's either great or it's terrible. And I think that it allows us to really block out all of that noise and stay focused on, the intent of our group and why we're doing what we're doing. Um, I couldn't be luckier to have three people like that I get to work with every day because, like you said, it's not lost on me that this is not normal.
Tony Jones.
Hey, Coach, what does it mean for you that, this is, been able to get done, in this manner, just kind of as efficiently as it has been done. And, as a secondary question, what's been, some of your favorite moments in these first few years of your tenure?
Yeah, it means a lot to get this done and sort of put this part behind us. There's so much work to be done. We have, a lot that we have to do as a staff, um, and as an organization moving forward to get where we want to get to. And so to have this element solidified in the moment is definitely relieving and allows us to focus on the things that we need to focus on. Um, I mean, memories of the first 3 years is that's a hard one to pinpoint, because I go back to, the first press conference when I got the job and meeting all of you for the first time and sort of starting to initially feel the weight and responsibility of this job, but also feel the passion and the support of our fan base. The first home game at Delta Center was a moment that I'll never forget. Little things like the first time the team brought it in at the end of practice and training camp, and you realize, like, wait, I'm the head coach. I'm the one that's supposed to talk right now. Um, but also more than that, it's the time spent with everybody that's in our travel party. There's so much time behind the scenes on the planes, on the buses. There's so many people who do incredible work for us who get no credit publicly, and forging those relationships along with the relationships with our players. It's a day like today when the news comes out and you're getting texts from guys that were on the team my first year here. I was a 34-year-old first-time head coach, and they let me coach them, and they embraced me as the head coach, and they were ultimately the ones that fed into my confidence in this job because of the way that they approached me every day. Um, the games are always fun, but ultimately I think that this job and coaching in general, it's the relationships and the time spent are the things that run through your head when you really look back on it all. Um, and so I'm very, very grateful that I've been surrounded by and am still surrounded by so many amazing people.
Sir Todd.
Hey, Will, the first extension kind of, gave a glimpse that you would be here kind of through that first rebuilding part of the rebuild or first section of the rebuild of this team. And this extension gives you an opportunity to kind of look beyond what would be the rebuild and start sort of what it would look like when you guys are maybe trying for contention. And I'm wondering, what are your worries, concerns, thoughts about how maybe your job will change once it shifts?
Yeah, it's not something that I'm concerned about. I think that's what we all want. You want to be in the big game. You want to be in the pressure situation. You want to be competing for the championship. That's what we're all hunting. And I do recognize that there will be a lot of changes for all of us as our team continues to grow. It's not just me, it's the assistant coaches, it's the players, it's the front office, it's Ryan and Ashley. Like the feelings and the emotions attached to it all, um, will be a little bit different. And I'm excited for that. Like, I'm excited for our fan base to pack the building for a big playoff game. I think that's what we're all anxious for and excited for. Like, I watch these playoff games at night and you're just staring at the screen going, that's what I want. And that's what we're building towards. Like, we're a group that's very committed to the process of building a championship level team. And we said in the beginning, and we will continue to say, that does not mean that there aren't hard moments. Um, but I think that those hard moments are ultimately what makes it all worth it in the end. So I don't really have concerns about my job changing as we continue to move forward, because I think that's ultimately what you sign up for when you're a head coach in this league is um, things are constantly changing around you, and you have to be a steady force throughout all that change.
Andy?
Two questions for you. First, with the NBA lottery, are you headed out to Chicago for that, or what's your plan with that?
Yes, I will be in Chicago.
Okay. And then wanted to ask, as you watch playoff basketball, and we've talked about this before, it's a different style of basketball than regular season basketball. How do you think your current team and young players especially are equipped to kind of handle what we've seen in some really tough and close playoff games so far?
Yeah, I think our young players are on the right path of growing towards being ready for those. Um, the reality is this season we weren't ready for that level. And some of that is outside of their control, because there is an element of some experience, but also some physical maturity and some of those things that stand out in some of these games. We're seeing a really, really physical playoffs to this point. But the part that I'm most excited about is that ultimately, in my experience in the playoffs, and continuing to watch it all unfold, your mental toughness and your mindset is the most important thing to get through the playoffs, because there are big emotional swings. You're physically exhausted and you're getting tested every single night. And I think that our group is building that resilience and continuing to improve and work on our mindset every single day, because that's what it's going to take. Um, if you watch the series after one game, the reactions are generally, this team is playing great, this other team is playing poorly. Golden State loses 2 games in a row and everybody's sort of writing them off, and they go win game 7 on the road. And yes, it's because of the ability of their players, but more than that, it seems like it's because of the mindset of their players. And that's the thing that we have to continue to address as a group as we grow. Physical things are easier to measure. How strong you are, how high you can jump, how many shots you make out of a certain number, like those things are easy to measure. Your mindset's hard to measure. And so that's the thing we have to monitor really closely as a group as we keep going.
Jeff?
Yeah, you mentioned wins were hard to come by this season, but man, the fans, every time I went to a game, they're packing the arena, which surprised me. Every time I showed up, that many people were there to watch. What do you want to say to them about how they've supported you, maybe where you are in this process?
Yeah, my message to our fan base first and foremost is thank you. Their support means the world to me. It means the world to our team, because we need them. And ultimately, we're trying to conduct ourselves in a way that represents them. And you always want your fan base to be proud of how you're operating as a team. And I think that ultimately that's why they showed up every night. Um, I give our fan base a lot of credit. They have perspective and they understand what we're ultimately hunting, and they understand what we're doing to try to get there. And playing a lot of young players, trying to develop our young talent, um, the fan base understood that that was going to be hard from a wins and losses standpoint at certain moments. But I do think that they continued to show up because they enjoyed watching our young players compete. There was not a lack of effort on the floor. There was not a lack of passion wearing a Utah Jazz jersey, and that's why they continue to show up. So, um, sorry. Um, I want to continue to thank them and to continue to tell them and remind them that this is all going to be worth it. And growing these young players is going to give us the best chance to hang a banner at Delta Center. And I understand frustration in certain moments. I understand that some of the losses are hard, and especially when you cared so deeply about the team. But um, their support does not go unnoticed. I'm very grateful for our fan base and their approach, and this is all going to be worth it.
Sarah?
Will, as the season was ending, I asked pretty much on everyone on the roster, like, is Will a good coach? And how does he keep you guys accountable? And like the general consensus was great coach. Everyone said glowing things about you, so that's nice. But the thing that stood out was that everyone was like, well, he'll call Lowry out in a film session or during a practice or during a game just as soon as he'll call out a two-way guy or Cody or Isaiah. And so it that even playing field, is that a concerted effort kind of in your coaching philosophy and something that you want to continue?
Yeah, that's going to remain a core principle for us every single day. And that's because I believe ultimately everybody can improve. And secondly, we all want the same thing. We're all trying to win. My responsibility is to hold them accountable. It's not personal. I care very much about all of these guys as human beings. But when we're doing the basketball piece, we're trying to improve as a team. They're trying to improve individually. And it's also a credit to our veteran players, like you mentioned, Lowry, and he allows me to coach him hard in front of the team because he understands that allowing me to do that lets me coach the young players hard and not have them bat an eye. And we don't get into this situation of, well, you don't yell at him when he did this, he did this on that play and you didn't say anything. We want everybody to be held accountable to the same standards. And that's something that, I was fortunate to witness, up close and personal throughout my coaching career, the coaches that I've worked for. And I ultimately think it's the best way to build team cohesion is everybody understanding that the standards have to be the same for everybody. And just because you're on a different contract or you play more minutes doesn't mean that you get to just let things slide. And I want them to continue to want more for themselves. That's my responsibility. And if that means that in certain moments they're all mad at me, that's fine. That comes with the territory, and there's that can be good for a group as well. But our players deserve a lot of credit for how they've handled themselves. I'm very grateful that they allow me to coach them as hard as I do.
Sarah, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, you mentioned having seen the coaches that you've worked for and learning from them, and kind of as the news recently that Pop won't be coming back like to a coaching bench. I'm wondering how much of your coaching style philosophy was learned through him? And is he someone that you think about or talk to when, like, you get a big contract extension?
Yeah, I learned an incredible amount from Pop. Uh, I think he really set the foundation of values for me that you carry into your team. Uh, I also recognize that I'm not Pop and our personalities are not the same. And so I'm not trying to emulate Pop. I do think that the values system, though, is similar. That being said, he's taught me more than I could even explain, um, allowing me to be a part of his program and their program for 11 years, the opportunities that I was given there, getting to learn from him, getting to learn from the players, getting to learn from, countless assistant coaches that I got to work with and for while I was there has ultimately shaped a ton of my coaching identity. But I do have to remain true to myself and do it my way and with my voice. Um, so I'm forever grateful to him, that organization and all the coaches and players that I was around while I was there. There's way too many to name each of them by name right now. Um, and yeah, of course, he's somebody that, I speak to. He's a mentor to me in a lot of ways. He's been a very prominent figure in my adult life. Uh, I was in San Antonio from age 22 to 33, which is a very formative part of my life. And so, yeah, getting to share the news with him is that's a great moment. There's other coaches as well that you get to share the news with, and you get congratulatory texts. It's one of the few moments where you take a moment and take a step back and think about the journey to this point and all the people that have been very impactful along the way. Pop obviously being the most prominent.
Okay, that's all the questions that we have. Will, thank you so much for taking the time to join us this morning. Congratulations. Good to see
Thank you guys.
everyone.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Will.
Have a good one.